Hey everybody, welcome to the Real United States, and it's studio time again. This is part of that whole series that I was talking about starting, about things that happened 50 years ago or 40 years ago today, and I'm going to deviate from that a little bit because I have a 50th anniversary, but I also have like, 142-year anniversary or something. Um, so anyway, November 5th. Um, Tomorrow is election day here in the United States, and those of you who have been with me for a while know that we, avoid political issues like the plague because uh, there's plenty out there for you to see. Whether you want confirmational bias and you want to hear your opinions, or whether you're looking for opposing opinions, there's lots of it out there. That's not why we're here, because the honest to God truth is that politics play a relatively small part in the lives of the 350 plus million Americans who go on about their lives day to day. I'm not saying they play no role, it's just a very, very small piece of trying to keep body and soul together and all the things that we do just to get through the day. So we don't cover those things, it's not part of what we do. So this isn't really a political piece so much as it's a historical piece, and that brings me to 50 years ago today, the election of 1968. Now, I remember that day very vividly, very vividly. I was at school, I was in the fourth grade, and I was reading my weekly reader when our teacher, Mrs. Moon, told us all that Richard Milhouse Nixon had won the presidential election. Now, certainly, I would think most of you alive, certainly those of you that are from the United States, should be familiar with Richard Nixon. Nixon has the rather dubious distinction of being the only president in the history of our country to resign the office of the presidency. However, that was in his second term. Nixon served his entire first term, ran again against George McGovern, and won. It was during that second campaign that all the Watergate problems happened, and apparently he lied about some things, and that was when his political support caved in. And I'm, not such a, great historian that I know exactly what his culpability was, other than he lied. He was aware of some things and he lied about it. Whether, I don't necessarily personally believe he was involved in them or ordered them or anything. Maybe that's what you believe. I don't know. I don't care. At any rate, it crippled the office of the presidency, and Nixon, partially out of his own respect for the office itself, and partially, I think, from pressure from the RNC, the Republican National Convention Committee, convinced him to resign the office. But his presidency was very significant. I mean, a lot of things, very significant things, happened under Nixon's presidency, and I won't try to go into all of them, but certainly it was under Nixon's watch that the troops were withdrawn from Vietnam. Now, for those of us that were coming of age in those years and thought, oh, goody, I graduate from high school, they send me to the other side of the world, and I die. Having the troop withdrawal from Vietnam was a very significant thing. And so, again, this happened under Nixon's watch. Also, good or bad, I suppose depends on one's point of view. For the first time, well, in my lifetime, and I don't know how many years it had been, Nixon went to China and opened diplomatic relations. Prior to that, prior to the Nixon administration, we had not had diplomatic relations between the United States and China, believe it or not. Much like we have largely no diplomatic relations with North Korea today, it was like that with China. Now, again, you might think, well, if he hadn't have done that, maybe China wouldn't, own the world because they wouldn't be making everything and we'd still have jobs. Maybe you think that. You'd be wrong, of course, because what would have happened is that China would have opened a shell corporation in Zimbabwe or something, and then we'd have bought products from Zimbabwe that were made in China, and because that's the way it happens in global trade, and that's what we have nowadays. If you can't get through it directly, then you go through it with another country where you do have trade relations. So very little would have changed there. However, here's the thing that was important. This was the late 1960s. This was the Cold War. For those of you that are younger, you don't understand the stress involved in the Cold War. But having tension and no diplomatic relations with the most populous nation in the world during the nuclear era, when everybody's sitting on just incredible number of nuclear devices, having tension in the world was not a good thing. Okay? We feared for our very lives. So opening diplomatic relations with China, regardless of whatever bad came of it, I think a lot of good came of it in the respect that you don't bite the hand that feeds you. If you're going to sell, trillions of dollars worth of stuff to the United States, you're not going to nuke them. So, I think it relieved a lot of tension. My opinion, please don't chew my ass in the comments down below, folks. That's my opinion. However, November 5th is, I was saying, also historically significant for something happened a long time ago, and that would be 1872. Wow. What are you talking about? Well, that was the election on November 5th in 1872 of Ulysses S. Grant. All right, for those of you maybe overseas or whatnot, Ulysses S. Grant was the commanding general of the Union forces, the northern states of the United States during our Civil War. And then after the war, he became elected our president. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about Grant because it's not terribly significant other than this is the day he was elected. But what is significant is in that election on November 5th in 1872, for the first time ever, a woman voted. Now, she voted illegally, but Susan B. Anthony went and cast her vote in the 1872 election on November 5th. And then on November 18th, she was issued an arrest warrant and subsequently arrested, tried, and she was fined $100. Now, 1872, $100 was a huge fine. I'll do the math for you, and I'll put it on screen what it is in 2018 dollars, right here. Okay, that's what $100 in 1872 would equivocate today. She never paid the fine. But she got her place in history as probably the most well-known and prominent suffragette. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, women's suffrage was a movement to get equal rights and the vote for women. Now, when I think of the women's suffrage movement, usually I think of the 1920s, maybe. Maybe if I'm really concentrating on it, the 1890s, But this is 1872. The Civil War has only been over for 7 years. It's still fresh in everybody's senses. The nation is still trying to patch itself back together. Hell, Virginia just got a new constitution the year before. And the women are beginning to fight for their right to vote and for equal rights. So Susan B. Anthony became an icon for women's rights throughout the nation, possibly throughout the world, I don't know. And she's been memorialized with a dollar coin. I'm going to stick it right here. Now, the problem with that coin, of course, is that it was so close in size to the United States quarter, see here, that it was confusing to people. Even though it was colored differently, it was confusing to people. So it never really gained favor in usage. But it still was a great honor to have, I think, for her to have this coined in her honor. She also had a stamp, 3-cent stamp in her honor. Neat, huh? That's something not everybody gets. So, and there have been, various other memorials. There's a statue of Susan B. Anthony in the rotunda of the United States Capitol building in downtown Washington, D.C., which unfortunately I didn't get down there to take a picture for you. I can't do it all, folks. But anyway, so that is the significance of this day in history. So not only a 50th anniversary, but also a 140-something or other anniversary. And I just wanted to share that with you. So, folks, thank you very much for joining me. If you have questions or comments, please be kind. I know most of you are so very kind. But anyway, leave in the comments section down below. I love hearing from all of you. Just want to say hi. I appreciate that, too. I like to hear from you. I really do. And I try to give back to everybody I can. If you're new here, hey, welcome. And consider picking subscribe and come along for the adventure because we got lots more to show you. As always, folks, well, thank you for watching.